I've received an order to build a custom laboratory table. While I'm not entirely sure of its exact purpose, the customer has provided clear requirements while also giving me some creative freedom in the design. And in this video, I'll show you how to build a table like this yourself, using the same methods and techniques I'll be demonstrating, step by step, just for you. To prepare the materials, we'll need a set of specialized jigs. Here are some of them. Precise holes must be drilled accurately into the aluminum extrusions, and these precision jigs will help us get the job done perfectly. As we progress through the project, I'll introduce more of the essential jigs needed for the build. This table will be constructed primarily using aluminum extrusions, designed to support at least 500 kilograms while remaining mobile with the addition of wheels. Therefore, every joint must be carefully designed for strength and load-bearing capacity while also maintaining the clean, aesthetic quality that I ensure in all my projects. I'll start with the simpler methods first, using precision tools available on our website, along with common tools you can find at any DIY store. This means you can easily try this project at home yourself. Before we start drilling, we need to securely fasten the 50-50 extrusion to the table. Using this drilling jig, we can quickly and accurately create two precise holes in the workpiece. These two holes are designed to fasten a 40-80 extrusion perpendicular to the 50-50 extrusion. When drilled accurately and consistently, they ensure a smooth and hassle-free assembly process. Cleanup is rather easy when working with aluminum extrusions since we produce chips rather than dust, unlike woodworking. I'll show you more about the removed material as we go along. Right now, I'm drilling both sides of the 50-50 extrusion, and this process needs to be repeated for all 4 vertical legs of the table. By using the same precision jig, you'll be able to complete this task in just a few minutes, without the need for any marking or measurement. It's that convenient. And once it's done, we'll have perfectly placed holes, accurately and precisely positioned exactly where they need to be. Needless to say, accurate drilling enables us to use concealed joinery in the majority of our projects, resulting in aluminum extrusion structures that have a high aesthetic value, rather than the raw industrial look. And as mentioned, I'll show you some of the waste produced during this process. This is dry drilling where no lubricant is used. The byproduct is aluminum chips, and all we need to do is vacuum them up at the end of the process. The cleanup is as simple as having a bin and a vacuum on hand to collect the dry shavings, keeping the workspace clean at all times. Before we dive deeper into the project, you have to subscribe and smash the like button, because there are plenty more exciting projects ahead, and you'll learn so much from each one I have in store for you. And if you want to build this table just like I'm about to show you, you can download the 3D model plan from our website. Now, let's use the freehand jig to precisely place some holes according to our markings. This simple method, using a stop block along a ruler, allows us to repeatedly position the markings that we'll use to drill the extrusions. I always take my time during the material preparation stage. I follow the 80-20 rule in my workflow, dedicating the most time to planning, design, purchasing, and preparation to ensure the assembly process goes as smoothly as possible. Over the years, this approach has become essential to everything I do. And if anything prevents me from executing the plan precisely, I'll design and 3D print a solution, ensuring every issue is resolved before the assembly stage. This is what I call completeness, a crucial aspect of this project you're watching right now. I always ensure that the holes are placed exactly as I designed them. When you download the 3D model, you'll also receive clear guidance on where each hole needs to be drilled. By following the 3D model and instructions carefully, your project will come together just as smoothly as you see in this video. From this point on, we have more holes to drill, but this time we'll be using the 40 series precision drilling jigs. For this project, we've strategically combined different aluminum extrusion profiles to achieve both structural strength and aesthetic appeal, including the 50-50, 40-40, and 40-80 series. This is our 40-80 by freehand drilling jig, designed to place 2 holes anywhere along the face of a 40-80 extrusion. When using the jig, you'll need to decide how to secure it to the extrusion. In this case, we're fastening it from the top. Since multiple holes need to be drilled along this same piece of extrusion, we can simply slide the jig to the next position for precise and consistent drilling. The snug fit of the jig ensures that the holes are drilled square, perfectly aligned, and perpendicular to the extrusion. The last drilling jig we'll use here is one of our most popular ones, the 40/40 freehand drilling jig. It performs the same function as the previous jigs, but is designed specifically for any 40mm thick extrusion. Right now, I'm using it to drill both 40/80 and 40/40 profiles, with some holes at an 8mm diameter and others at 5mm. In total, all the necessary drilling took me about 2 hours, including filming and setting up the recording angles. For you, it should take around an hour to complete this task, leaving you with a set of perfectly prepared holes, ready for assembly, and a pile of aluminum shavings as the only evidence of the work done. During assembly, we will encounter alignment challenges. To solve this issue beforehand, I designed these alignment jigs. They act as a precise set of extra hands, holding the extrusions in perfect position while I tighten everything down. Before we start using these jigs, we need to get everything assembled. Here is a look behind the scenes at what happens when customers purchase our precision jigs. Every day, we dedicate time to assembling jigs for our customers before shipping them out worldwide. This jig helps us align a 40mm extrusion perfectly at the center of a 50/50 extrusion without any measurements, and we will need a set of 4. From this point on, we will assemble the aluminum extrusions section by section. These initial steps will be done in this small room before moving outside for the final structure assembly. To get everything in position, we will clearly mark the lines where the extrusions meet, and internal fasteners will need to be added beforehand. For maximum strength in the joinery, we will use these standard end fasteners, which provide a larger surface area for a secure grip. This method of internal joinery is one of the strongest techniques available, and over the years, we have used thousands of them in multiple projects. And in this demonstration, you'll see how to use flush plates to align and flush the joinery to perfection. I'll start with basic hand tools to prove that anyone can do this. And as we progress, I'll switch to power tools to speed things up. Flush plates have been an integral part of all our assembly projects. One of the most frustrating aspects of working with aluminum extrusions is achieving perfect alignment and flushness. But flush plates solve this problem quickly and effectively. To further tighten the screws, you can use this method to extend the grip on the Allen key, allowing you to apply more torque for the final tightening. To further strengthen the joint, large brackets will be added externally while keeping the flush plate in place to prevent any parts from shifting out of position. In addition to these brackets, I had to design and 3D print some special brackets for a specific joinery because such parts simply don't exist in the market. These custom 3D printed brackets will help me hold 40/80 extrusions perpendicular to a 50/50 extrusion with precision. We'll install the large brackets first, securing them with T-bolts and flange nuts. With 8 sets of these fasteners on each bracket, we can confidently say that the joinery, combined with the internal fasteners, will be as strong as it can be. These large brackets, though installed in multiple locations for now, will eventually be concealed from view unless you take a look underneath the table. Their purpose is to provide significant strength to the joinery, greatly enhancing the overall structural integrity of the table. And only after the brackets are installed will I remove the flush plate, revealing a perfectly executed joint, aligned precisely with both the marked lines on the extrusions. The rest of this section will be assembled in the same exact way, strictly following my flush plate method, ensuring that each part is assembled well, and with the strength needed to support the heavy weight later on. This is just one of many projects we'll be showcasing over the next 12 months. I already have a packed lineup of projects for the entire year, and the excitement to share each video is hard to contain. Every project is unique and calls for fresh creativity and design. If you have any project ideas you'd like to see, feel free to suggest them. If it's challenging enough, I'll definitely consider it. This next section will be pre-assembled using the same methods, but with 40/40 extrusions instead. The brackets used here are smaller, but they will serve the same purpose. Since this section of the table doesn't need to support extreme weight, the materials chosen are more than sufficient. And to provide additional joinery strength, brackets were added to both sides of the extrusion, ensuring a solid connection with no room for failure. If you're wondering how much time it took to put this structure together, here's the breakdown. It took me 2 days in this room for drilling and pre-assembly, and another 2 days outside to complete the final assembly. Keep in mind that this time includes the filming process and camera setup, so I can share every step with you. Without the filming tasks, you can expect to spend about the same amount of time as I did, or even less. Now we need to attach all the vertical extrusions. To ensure everything is perfectly flush to all relevant sides, you'll need to follow this method, which involves a Carpenter square, a couple of small clamps, and a flush plate. This method is absolutely perfect for creating perpendicular joints with precision and flush. And yes, if you're wondering how many tools one would need to do what I do, I agree, there's quite a bit. However, I've kept it simple for you by mostly using hand tools to build these structures over the years. This way, anyone can follow along without needing an extensive workshop. Now let's move on to attaching the 4 legs using the jigs I printed in pink. Without these alignment jigs, matching a 40-40 extrusion to a 50-50 would be complete guesswork, and achieving a perfect flush on the edge of the 50-50 would be nearly impossible. Having these alignment jigs makes the process so much easier, and they're truly a game changer for precise assembly. This jig holds the extrusion with a 5mm offset on both sides, naturally centering the workpiece for tightening. With the help of just 2 small clamps, I can work on this joint alone without needing assistance from another person. This approach is the foundation of most of my designs, which are specifically meant for solo work, perfect for a one-man show. Just take a look at the result. No marked lines or measurements needed. This is truly a perfect corner joint. Let's proceed. The same technique is applied to all 4 corners, and throughout the process, I usually keep the alignment jigs in place until the very end to ensure everything stays in place. And if after all this, you still don't fully understand how this jig works, take another look. The extrusion fits perfectly in the middle, and once again, I understand that some people are vocally confident in their work and feel they do not need any jigs to assist them. I have to agree that they may possess skills beyond what I have. However, I must remind everyone that tiny mistakes, even if seemingly insignificant, will compound. These small errors accumulate, eventually leading to an unacceptable final product. I do not want to end up there, which is why I eliminate all mistakes right from the start. Using the same alignment jigs, we can now build the middle shelf. By aligning the jigs to the marked lines and using flush plates as stop blocks, we can suspend the middle shelf in the exact position needed. But of course, we need to slot in the internal fasteners on all 4 sides first and carefully wriggle the setup into place, which will take some time. Once it's positioned correctly, the alignment jigs will handle the precision, while flush plates will be used for joints that don't have a jig to ensure everything stays perfectly flush. As we close up the sides of the middle shelf, we will apply the same methods demonstrated earlier, especially the Carpenter square method, to achieve perfect joinery. Once everything is aligned, we will lock it down with external brackets for added strength and structural stability. The joinery methods demonstrated in this project are double-jointed, incorporating both internal and external fasteners. When executed correctly, these joints provide exceptional strength, allowing you to build reliable structures for various practical applications. The possibilities are endless, limited only by your creativity. Now that the structure is getting too tall to film, let's bring it down to the ground for a better view. The remaining extrusions to install are all 40-80 profiles. To ensure they sit flush, I've attached flush plates to both ends, allowing the extrusion to rest on top of the legs. And here comes our 50-50 to 40-80 alignment jig, which ensures the 40-80 extrusion is perfectly centered once again. This jig works hand in hand with the flush plate above, each performing a different flush function to achieve precise alignment. By using 4 of these alignment jigs, I can ensure that all 8 faces of the 40-80 extrusions are properly aligned, each maintaining a precise 5mm offset from the outer face of the 50-50 profiles. We need to get everything right, and we're relying on all the precision tools at our disposal to ensure we achieve a perfectly flat surface, ready to support the wooden tabletop later on. This new jig falls under the category of specialty jigs, designed specifically for unique applications where we transition between different aluminum extrusion series. And any jig I design will ensure we achieve practical, precise results, something nearly impossible if done completely freehand. And the outcome is clearly evident here, where everything is constructed perfectly while minimizing the time spent. Before installing the last aluminum extrusion frame, all internal fasteners must be prepared. This surface will eventually bear the most weight, so the design is engineered to handle it, with ample fasteners placed throughout to ensure it can withstand the load, while also considering the vertical leg supporting the center of the table. To assemble this frame, it would be wiser to have another person helping. However, instead of that, I attached flush plates again to help rest the frame on top of the structure, allowing me to manage the task alone. This process did take quite a bit of time to get done. First, I had to attach the frame to the middle extrusions before working on all the corners, and then flush every side with the alignment jig. Honestly, I'm so used to working alone that even with another person, it doesn't really mean we'll get this done any better or faster. Remember the special 3D printed bracket? We have to install it right now. There are no such products out there, so I have to make my own. At the end of the day, this bracket is still made of plastic, so we can't expect it to have the same strength as one made of metal, but nevertheless, it will definitely provide some holding power. And before we forget, we still need to flush and tighten the middle support legs. These are the supports that will prevent the tabletop from flexing over time, so we need to ensure that they are properly secured. And once that is done, this is how the structure looks now. It is now an all-metal frame, and it has become quite heavy. But we're not done yet. We still need to add the wheels, the wooden surfaces, and all the necessary aesthetic touches. This aluminum frame may look simple, but if you've been watching since the beginning, you'll know it's not that simple. And before we go any further, let's put on the remaining special brackets that I made. These brackets work alongside all the other fasteners, including those we will use later to secure the wood, to enhance the overall structural integrity of the table. Every single screw and every single bolt each contribute a certain percentage to the overall solidity of the design. The alignment jigs will now be removed and set aside for future projects requiring a similar setup. By now, you should have noticed that the project followed a precise sequence, with everything planned and executed in the exact order you watched. Throughout the video editing process, nothing was rearranged, including the cleanup. I structured it this way so you can fully understand how each of my projects comes together, step by step. Applying these slot covers should only be done at this stage of the build. They help prevent dust and dirt from clogging up the slots, while also contributing to a sleek, clean look. One of my signature touches in all my designs. And these black aluminum extrusions that I am handling right now will be used for a huge table that I'm going to build in my next project. And finally, let's move on to the wood application. Here, you'll learn one of my methods for material fusion, combining multiple materials within a single project. Properly securing wood to aluminum extrusion is an art in itself. As we go along, you'll gain a full understanding of how this is done in the most aesthetic and structurally sound way. But before we handle the wood, we'll first need to make the table mobile. Let's flip the table upside down to attach the 6 leveling casters. To fasten the casters, we'll use thread reducers to bring the size down to M6, making it compatible with the mounting holes. A bit of thread lock will ensure everything stays securely in place, and then we can attach the wheels. We'll be using 3 out of the 4 mounting holes, which will be sufficient for this setup. These heavy-duty casters are designed to handle and exceed the intended weight load for this table, providing peace of mind for the user, as well as leveling functionality in case of uneven floors. I've used these reliable casters in so many past projects, and every single time they've never let me down. These thread reducers are one of the most critical items in my planning stage. I ordered them early, but they were delivered quite late, which caused the project to be delayed until I received everything needed to complete the build. By mentioning this, it ties into the completeness mindset that I spoke about earlier. When you download the files from our website, make sure to go through the material list within the download and have everything prepared before starting the project. I'm confident you'll enjoy the entire process, and you'll feel a tremendous sense of accomplishment when you complete the build. With these casters installed, the table is finally mobile, and the aluminum extrusion structure is fully completed. Now that it's assembled, it may look like a very simple structure, but bear in mind, this structure already consists of 394 parts, meticulously put together, as demonstrated in the past 20 minutes of this video. Let's now move on to prepare the wood. These are high-quality, fully laminated wood panels that I've ordered. Recently, I've outsourced the wood production to meet the hectic timelines and schedules of my projects, allowing me to focus on what I do best. We'll need to manually notch out the corners of the wood panels. Instead of sending the wood to a CNC shop, I'll show you how to do it with a Japanese handsaw. I'll start by making a rough cut and then finish it off with machine sanding for a clean, precise result. This project involves sourcing so many parts and materials from multiple suppliers, and sometimes I find it mind-blowing that, somehow, everything still manages to work in sync, and we end up with a perfect product. This wood panel is now ready to go. As of now, everything has been done according to plan. I haven't done any test fits yet, so whether everything will come together nicely is still unknown. What do you think? Will the wood panels fit properly? Well, let's see. Bingo! Once again, apologies for the suspense, even though I already knew the outcome. Now let me show you how to secure the wood panel in a concealed manner. Some of the holes we drilled into the extrusions earlier were meant for this. But first, we need to enlarge the holes to allow the screw heads to fit in, and we'll need this special drill bit to do that. This will help shave off some material, allowing us to use these countersunk hex wood screws to secure the wood from the underside of the table. Each panel will be secured with a sufficient number of screws on all sides to prevent any warping of the wood in the future. And once this is done, the wood panel won't be going anywhere. For the next panel, I made the first mistake of this entire project. Despite all the careful planning, I failed to account for the necessary tolerances to insert this piece of wood. I really tried, but there just isn't enough space to fit it in. Honestly, I'm really frustrated with myself. I need to think of a way out. Luckily, this structure is bolted together rather than welded. I figured that if I remove one of the table legs, we might just be able to slot the panel in. Since I know where all the fasteners are, I got started loosening all the relevant bolts and slowly slid the leg out of the frame. This is a pretty painful lesson, having to dismantle part of what I've painstakingly assembled with so much precision. When it's your turn to build this project, please don't overlook this step. At this moment, I was really worried I'd need to dismantle more parts to make it work, but thank God the panel fit in nicely. The next time I face a similar setup, I'll have to remember to do test fitting during the 3D modeling stage, which will completely eliminate such errors. To put the leg back on, I had to carefully maneuver 3 sets of fasteners back into the extrusion and slowly slide it in to align with the caster plate, which took quite a bit of time. But this also highlights the beauty of working with aluminum extrusion. Nothing is truly final. We can take everything apart and upgrade the structure anytime we want. Every bolt had to be tightened back down, and every alignment had to be redone using the same jig as before. I also had to use a thread reducer and a flush plate to ensure the top surface was perfectly flush again. These are just some of the techniques I've developed over the years to achieve precision. If you want to learn more, you'll have to press these buttons. The next few projects, packed with even more technique demonstrations, are already in the video editing stage. Once they're ready, you'll be automatically notified. The wood panel will be secured using the same method. This technique is highly reliable, ensuring a strong hold while keeping all the screws fully concealed. But for the tabletop panel, we'll be using a different method. The customer wants it to be interchangeable in the future, allowing for a swap to a surface made from different materials that can withstand various laboratory solvents. Therefore, after some discussions, we agreed that threaded inserts are the way to go. We place the panel first to verify that all measurements are correct. After that, flush plates are attached around the edges to center the panel precisely in the middle of the structure. This step is crucial because we need to mark the underside of the panel, ensuring perfect alignment with the pre-drilled holes in the extrusions. This method is much faster than manually measuring and marking the wood. The only thing to keep in mind is that we must use the same drill bit size as the pre-drilled holes to create the markings. Once that is done, we'll know exactly where to add the threaded inserts. So far, these markings have been made accurately without the need for any measurements. These holes need to be enlarged to 7 millimeters to accommodate the inserts, and here's how I managed to get it done quickly. The threaded inserts I'm using are these affordable ones, and they'll be accepting long bolts that you'll see later on. With my hand drill set to the correct torque and the ability to keep it straight, all the threaded inserts were placed into the wood in no time at all. Next, we need to enlarge the drilled holes slightly. This will give us a bit more play in the tolerances, just in case the fit turns out to be too tight. Once this is done, we'll be at the final stage of our assembly process, securing the tabletop to the structure. If everything was done correctly, all the bolts we are about to insert will align perfectly with the threaded inserts in the wood panel. This won't just secure the wood panel to the structure, because the wood panel will also enhance the structural integrity of the top aluminum frame, ensuring everything stays firmly in place. If you take some time to think about it, you'll start to understand the foundation of my joinery designs. Every single screw and bolt plays a crucial role, contributing to the overall rigidity of the structure. And now, this is the very last bolt to put on. This is typically when I contact the customer to arrange for delivery, and in this case, the project was completed earlier than expected. If you watched the entire video, you would have seen all the intricate details we had to pay attention to, along with the various techniques and methods used to achieve this perfect product. If you want to adjust the dimensions of the structure to fit your needs, feel free to do so after downloading the files. Basic 3D modeling skills will be sufficient. The software I strongly recommend is Shaper 3D, which is more than adequate for projects like ours. And here are all the jigs that made this project possible, which you can find on our website. We have a wide range of unique items designed to simplify and enhance aluminum extrusion builds. Once you check them out, you'll understand how they can make your projects easier and more enjoyable. Let's take one last look at our masterpiece before we wrap it up for safe delivery. I'm sure you're eager for another unique project, so go ahead and click on the next one, and I'll see you there.